So today we're going to talk about why save for college. And so the focus of this lesson is going to be on saving and goal setting, but particularly related to college, because the act of setting a goal helps people to think more clearly about the steps that they might need to take to reach that goal. So we're going to keep all this in perspective by talking about saving for college. Because when we state clearly what we want to do, then our ideas about how to get there kind of come into focus a little bit better. So let's start with some vocabulary words. If we're talking about saving, then first let's talk about investing, because I need to make sure that you know the difference between saving and investing. So investing is saving money in order to earn a financial return. But now saving then is kind of similar, but the difference is how long we're putting that money aside. So saving is the act of putting something aside, money, for later use. Another way you can think of it again is one is typically short term and one is typically long term. So a couple of more vocabulary words. We're going to talk about goals, and so when we talk about goals, we're going to talk about those in terms of time frame as well. So hopefully you're getting the idea that timing or the amount of time related to our different activities is going to be pretty important when it comes to saving, especially for college. So our goals then are going to be either short term, not shorter, short term. So this is usually things that we plan to achieve in a year or less. Then there's medium term, and some people just say short term and long term, but we'll go ahead and throw in a medium term. Medium term are goals that we plan to achieve, so let's say goals instead of things. Medium term is going to be goals that we plan to achieve in 1, 2, 3, or maybe 5 years. And then long term is longer than that. So those are goals that we plan to achieve in more than 3 or 5 years. One more or two more vocabulary words that we should talk about, and some of this should be a repeat, but first, and this I know we've talked about this before, is opportunity cost. Whenever we start talking about doing something with our money, there's always an opportunity cost because there's always something else that we could do with that money. So remember, the opportunity cost is the next best thing, or the next best alternative that you have to give up when you make a certain decision. So that means in saving, my opportunity cost for saving is whatever it is that I can't buy because I'm deciding to save for college. And then lastly, let's talk about scarcity. Scarcity, I know we've talked about too, but it's been a little while. Scarcity is an economic problem that just says that we have more wants than we have resources. So we're describing our unlimited wants versus our limited resources. That's that whole thing when somebody says to you, don't you know that money doesn't grow on trees? So you want all this stuff, but somehow we have to figure out how to pay for it. So we're going to apply all of this to saving for college because that's kind of a big deal, meaning very important and very expensive potentially. And so it takes a little bit of planning. And so when we're thinking about saving for college, that's going to be a long-term proposition because that's even in 10th grade, you're still a few years out. And so that's going to be more focused on investing than saving. But as you get closer, then it's more of something that you're saving for as opposed to investing. And all the money that you put aside for college is money that you won't have to spend, but you're putting it aside for a good reason. So it's still a wise thing to do. So now that we've covered our vocabulary, let's think about what saving really means. So we said that it's putting money aside from our current income so that it'll be available for some use in the future. So we want to make sure that we've got money for college tuition, and so that means that we're going to have to take some of the money that we have now and set aside for later. So the first step then is that when people decide that they're going to save money, they have to decide where they're going to put that money that they're going to save. So our first step is deciding where to put the money that you save or invest. So some people, if they're saving for something small, may have a jar or some place around the house where they'll store their money because they want to be able to get their hands on it. Now, the trouble is if it's a whole lot of money, that might not be a safe thing to do, and you don't earn interest if you're just putting money in a cookie jar or something like that. So the more money you're saving or investing, the more careful you want to be with where you put it. So why do you think then that people might want to put their savings into some sort of a bank account? Well, I kind of mentioned it already. If you put it into a bank account or some sort of type of investment, your money can grow. So if you put it into a savings account, then you earn interest. And so the money that you're saving now becomes an investment. And so it can grow and you'll have more than what you put in initially. So why do we take the trouble to save for college? Or anything else that we might want later on? Well, because it puts you in a position to do things later on that you might not be able to do. If you don't start thinking about college now, whether it's getting good grades or saving money, then you might not be able to go to college or at least have enough money to go to the college that you want to attend or pay for all your books or live on campus or whatever it is that you want to do to make that college experience one that you are really hoping for. So let's talk a little bit more about these goals. And we said that short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Let me see if I can get a new page for us. So on our short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals, remember we said that short-term is a year or less. And medium-term is a little longer than that. And then long-term is like 3 to 5 years or more. So our long-term goals can build on our medium-term goals, and those medium-term goals can build on the short-term goals. So for example, if I know that I want to graduate from college in 2024. So that's 6 or 7 years from now. If I want to graduate from college in 2024, then that means I've got to start putting money aside now. And so my medium-term goal, which I would want to achieve over the next year or so, is maybe that I want to have enough money to cover personal expenses for first year of college. Because maybe you can get scholarships to cover tuition and books, but you've got to cover, you've got to have some spending money. And so your first year of college is going to start fall of 2020. And so that means short term, so you see how everything is kind of building on each other. Short term, maybe you want to, I don't know, well, we just talked about deciding where you're going to put all this money that you're saving. So short term, you want to open a savings account. So that's a set of short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. So let's take a break here, and then we'll move on to talking more about how we're going to do this saving and kind of why this whole thing is important in our next video.